All right, good afternoon. Thank you everybody for joining us for today's BEAD pre-registration Q&A session. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, and we will open it up to any questions you've got. Let's see, you can submit a question in the chat, and you can also unmute yourself, ask your question. Well, let's see if you can. I'm just checking to make sure the settings work everywhere. But please do submit your questions. All right, so we've got our first in the chat from Eden Proctor. Is there a confidentiality statement that ACA can share in regards to question 8 to ensure audited financial statements will remain confidential?
Applicants can submit any information, including the financial statements, with a confidential tag on the top. So any information along throughout the application that can be submitted as confidential, and ACA will review accordingly.
Is there a statement that y'all are able to provide so that we've got proof of confidentiality that we can share?
I think Iris and go ahead, Divya.
Yeah, we'll get back on that and we'll answer that question in the FAQs that will be published.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Kelly.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I couldn't quite figure out how to raise my hand, so I just thought I'd do it. Okay, this is a long one. You know, my questions are never simple, Kelly. My apologies. So I wrote it down to try to make it succinct. Okay.
Oh, nice. I appreciate that. You keep us on our toes.
With question number 63 in the public funding template. We're running into a wall here. It's kind of along the lines with that last question about confidentiality. It says new entrants are those without past public broadband funding are asked to provide information on public funding for proposed / future projects. Providing the details for proposed BEAD funding can only be provided after final project areas are established. Applicants don't know where they're going to apply until project areas are finalized. And budget estimates really haven't been developed until we know where the project areas are. There is also that issue of confidentiality. I am very nervous to put out there what an applicant will be applying for and how much match and all of that if that information can be available publicly. How do we navigate two things? You want us to predict where we're going to apply and give a budget and give a match and give that for BEAD, but we don't have the project. I mean, we have draft project areas. I got that, but that's not the end game. So can you help me with this one?
I'm hoping, yes, the experts can, between Divya and Iris.
So for the public funding information, it is not only specific to BEAD, it also includes any plans of undertaking future projects for RDOF or TAF or any other public funded projects. So if you don't have the BEAD expected projects at the moment, and there are plans of undertaking other projects across other federally funded projects, you can provide that. So that's the purpose of it. And in terms of confidentiality, so we'll address that internally and we'll provide a response on how we want to handle that.
Okay, so I'm going to mirror back to you, Divya, to make sure I see if I am understanding you.
Yes.
If we don't have project areas right now in Arizona, and let's say, for example, let's just do this like this simple. The applicant isn't applying anywhere else in the country. I know that's kind of what you're trying to get. You're trying to get a view of where this applicant's resources are spread, you know, across the nation. But if this particular applicant is only going to be applying in BEAD in Arizona, is this something we have to fill out?
No, so the question clearly states it's about submitting a list of publicly funded state deployment projects other than Arizona's BEAD program. So this question is not for BEAD, but for plans of applying for other federally funded program within Arizona and in other states.
So not Arizona BEAD, but in other states. I'm sorry, and you're cutting out, Divya. It's not you. You're just cutting out, at least on my video end. I'm hearing like it's cutting out syllables, not whole words, but just syllables.
I hear it too. Yes.
So if I'm hearing correctly, Divya, were you saying that that question is for, is asking for if an applicant has like other federal funding other from BEAD?
Other than Arizona's BEAD program.
Other than Arizona,
Yes.
not Arizona's BEAD program.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. All right. So if this applicant has applied in other states for BEAD funding, if this applicant has applied to the FCC for RDOF funding, if this applicant has applied for, there's really not any other money. Oh, like the CPF, the Capital Projects Fund money, you want that reported here.
Yes.
But if all this applicant is doing is applying for Arizona BEAD funding, this is not, they do not answer question 63.
Yes. If there is no plans of undertaking such, you can submit a statement saying that we don't have any plans of undertaking other projects at the moment.
Okay, so that way we don't have to expose what our imaginary or our predicted BEAD application is in the state, because you could read this to say that you want us to tell you what our BEAD application is in the state, and that's not what you're intending.
Yes, not in the state of Arizona, but in other states.
In other states. Gotcha. Thank you so much. Okay, final nuance. Do you all care if this applicant has received other smart grid funding from Department of Energy or from some other IIJA infrastructure funding program that is not broadband?
Not under the section, but it will be helpful to kind of understand any federal funding programs that the applicant has been associated with.
Can you think of a different question, Divya, that we should answer smart grid grant programs under?
It can come under the history of operations section.
All right. I'm sorry, but sometimes, when you get double negatives and things, it just blows my simple mind. So I'm good now on question 63. All right.
Okay, so Divya, are you still answering or are we moving on? Okay, we're good. Thumbs up. Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate that. All right, because we've got a lot of questions today. So great questions. I'm moving to the chat. Thank you, Teresa. Christy Baker. In question 65A, you request signed evidence of compliance with labor laws. There are no descriptions or examples of evidence. What kind of evidence should be submitted?
So for question 65A, the evidence would be a certification from an officer director level employee stating that they're in compliance with the federal and state labor laws for the past 3 years. That's the evidence.
All right, I don't know if Christy has a follow-up to that.
Yep. So it
Go ahead,
appears
Christy.
I'm sorry. It appears it's just a letter. You don't require, pictures of workplace posters or anything like that.
It's just a certification on the letterhead signed by an officer director level employee. It's just on the past compliance for the last 3 years with state and federal
Excellent.
laws. Yeah.
Okay. Just confirming that. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Christy. Next question from Eden. For the questions requesting a signed statement, questions 6, 31, 43, 70, and 75, what is required as part of the upload? Can this be one signed document certifying for all of the questions?
So this one has to be individual certification for each question. So there are check boxes under these questions. So once you check all the boxes, the uploaded signed statement should have all those statements on the letterhead and signed by an executive of the employee. But those will be separate attachments under each question.
But could it be, I guess, the same document uploaded for each one that's just signed? Does that make sense? So I'd write out every one of those certifications on one document, have it signed, and then upload it individually for each of those questions.
Right, but the check boxes for each questions are different. So you mean you're going to combine that? Because it's financial is different, technical is different, operational is different. So I would recommend individually uploading each attachment under each section.
Okay. And it can be just essentially a copy and paste of what that certification says in the question detail, and then just a signed by an executive. Great. And I assume, is that the same for the attestations for question 34, 40, 45A? Same deal?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on. Nathan Fillmore. Is the Arizona vendor ID the same as the Arizona bidder number?
This is something that will circle back on this response and publish in the FAQs.
Okay, so Divya is referring to, we publish FAQs, and I'll put the website link where you can find those. So after the meetings, we will write up the questions that were asked and provide the answers, and then upload that document onto our website. So we've got 2 questions so far that we'll be circling back on. And Nathan, this is one of them. Try to figure out how to
Perfect. Thank you.
assign the right emoji. And then Nathan, you've got another question here. Where do we find a list of BEAD program requirements, service milestones?
Okay. So more information on the service milestones and all the required information on the project requirements will be provided during the project application stage, which is expected to be published on Jan 6th.
Okay. Next question from Eden for question 22. Where should we upload resumes that should be linked in the template? Could we instead upload a document with the resumes included?
So now that the portal has been updated, so there's no template, the Excel template is not there. So what you can do is upload individual resumes that you're planning to submit on the application. If not, it can also be like a combined document with all the resumes together.
Great. Okay. Next is from Lisa Hughes. Can you explain how you want the new entrant template filled out?
Yeah, can you hear me, Kelly? I can follow up here.
Yes.
I'm just a little confused. I think it's question number 53. it asks to list evidence essentially of organizational readiness. Is this just an itemization of things that have been discussed in previous questions? It seems to ask for a lot of the same things. I'm kind of confused as to how this spreadsheet is supposed to be filled out. Is there any way that we can see maybe an example of what this is supposed to look like?
So which question?
53. Asking for the new entrant template.
Yes, so for new entrants to the broadband market, which is under the operational capability section, submitting evidence sufficient to demonstrate, that's the one, right?
Correct.
So in that case, so new providers, what they can provide is examples of resumes of the key personnel that they're planning to include within the project, or project descriptions and narratives of contractors, subcontractors, or any partners that they're planning to include for the specific projects. So that can be considered more of an operational evidence if they don't have the sufficient requirement.
Okay, so I don't know that you understood my question. So those things have been identified in narratives in previous questions. So for this spreadsheet, are you basically wanting those things that have already been identified to be itemized in this spreadsheet? The resume, like if we provide a resume for somebody that's the key personnel for BEAD, for if we've identified past projects that demonstrate organizational readiness, is it just an itemization of what's already been mentioned previously?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I don't quite understand that because a template is an Excel file. And we've already written like paragraphs of narrative, like you have the resumes, right? They're already attached, they're already uploaded. Are we supposed to go back now in this template, which is an Excel folder file, and put the name of the resume in there? And then the narratives were written in under each of the questions that were previously asked. How do we put those in? You want to run-on sentences in this Excel spreadsheet?
If there's an Excel for new entrants, what we're expecting is basically putting together the team and the project experience. It could be named, and then also you can give a description that this project has been listed further in the qualification section and things like that.
Oh, so point back to the question that we answered and say the narrative has been. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, because do you see what I'm saying? We've answered all of these questions previously, and then to take that narrative or a resume and to put it into the Excel file, that I'm trying to understand the utility in that. So
it's basically highlighting what experience and the team's experience and the project experience you would want to highlight as a new entrant. So the Excel can give information on that.
So we'll just point you back to the questions we've previously answered, and you'll read the narrative there. We don't need to take that narrative and put it into the Excel new template.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we've got 10 minutes left for question 46. I didn't read this one right. For question 46, what is meant by the state level outside of Arizona? Can we provide total customers, businesses, CAI served nationwide instead of by each individual state?
Right. So for this, we would require state level description of subscribers or CAI. So it has to be divided state-wise.
All right, Eden, I don't know if you have any follow-up to that. Pause quickly.
It is, if we're we serve in quite a number of states, I guess, trying to understand the purpose of needing it by individual state versus nationwide. Trying to understand, I guess, what you're trying to get out of the question.
Right, so basically trying to see the presence of the applicant across different states within the US. And then you can just give like a total number of customers or CAIs, like providers, customers and CAIs for each individual state, so that so we get an overview of the presence of the applicant.
But I guess, would that not be accomplished by providing it at a nationwide level versus individual state?
Individual state is what we're required to look at.
Okay.
Okay. From Teresa, since last week, have you gained more visibility into when ACA will release the final project areas and the R1 application guide? I can answer that one. Final project areas, we're looking at December 23rd. That's the release date for the final project areas, and we are hoping to release that application guide a few days before that. But everything should be available by the 23rd. Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate that. And expect some communications on that as well. And if you are participating in a Zoom webinar, that means that you're automatically added to our list. So no need to ask to be added. Moving on for question 62, what information needs to be included, or is this just a certification of a yes or no?
Question 2 is the MBWB certification. So if the applicant or the contractor subcontractor is an MB or WBE, you can mention that and you can upload the certification of the firm.
And you're talking about question 62, right?
MB certification one?
I just want to make sure we've got the right question number. The question from Eden is for question 62. And then what information needs to be included, or is it a certification of a yes or no?
Yeah, the question 62 is the
Okay.
MB.
I just want to make sure.
I think that was right. So,
Okay.
so Divya, it again just needs to be a statement of, yes, we or our contractors or subcontractors qualify as one of these types of businesses. We don't need to go through and identify which one qualifies as which type of business or provide any proof of that. Does that make sense? It's just more of a yes or no.
There is a, well, if you are an MBWB, you'll have to upload supporting documentation certifying the organization status or the status of the contractor or the subcontractor.
So, but I guess what documentation is it? Because everywhere else, it's just been a certifying statement. So
Yeah.
What does that need to be here? Is it just a general, yes, we have contractors or subcontractors that are an MBWB labor surplus firm? It doesn't have to be specific.
If you have them identified, you can provide that during this stage. If not, you'll also have the option to provide that during the project application stage. You can just name, these are the firms that we're associated with, and these are an MBWB firm, and then upload
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Last question in the chat, at least from Nathan. For any question asking for an attestation, a signed document from an executive officer of the applicant company is okay?
Yes, it is okay. It can be an authorized signatory or it can be an executive officer of the firm. Specifically for federal and state labor laws, it has to be a director or an officer level employee. So it should be fine.
Okay, we've got about 3 minutes left. Are there any other questions? You can either unmute or pop that in the chat. We know we've got some follow-ups, so we'll be working on getting those 2 questions that I tracked answered But also, again, every question asked is recorded, written, and a written question and response is provided in those updated FAQs. And I would think that we would probably get that updated by Monday at the latest, if not by Friday. Okay, well, if there's no further questions, we will end it here. Thank you, everyone. Same time, same place next week.
Hey, I've got one question before you end the call.
Sure. Hi, Alan.
My supervisor got an email that he forwarded to me saying that the deadline had been stretched to January 6th. Is it not the 20th that we have to have this pre-application or pre-registration done?
That is correct. So now the pre-registration, the date has changed because we have now round one of applications will open on January 6th. So with that date becoming January 6th instead of December 20th, that means your pre-registration needs to be in and completed by January 6th, or even earlier if you're able to do that. But
Well,
January.
we're gunning for the 20th still. I
Okay.
want to have Christmas, so.
Got it. Understood. So the 6th is the new deadline, and a new date that the window will open, but earlier is fine.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.